Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm reviewing part 2 of the special episode of Euphoria, Jules. So while the first part of the special episode focused mainly on Rue, this one is focusing almost solely on Jules and her experiences after the finale of the first episode. And I have to say right away, Hunter Schafer gives a phenomenal performance in this special episode. I think it's one of her best performances, if not her best performance in the series so far. The thing that I've really liked about these special episodes is you really get to dive into the characters. They're such interesting and compelling characters that having the episodic structure of the show, you haven't been able to get a really intense deep dive into them like you have in these special episodes. And since these episodes were filmed and put together mostly during the era of COVID, it's told almost entirely through dialogue, some one-on-one talking back and forth, some monologues from Jules, and you get to see just the raw emotion that she experiences. You get to see what makes her who she is, why she made the decisions that she did. You know, a lot of times in season 1, she kind of turns into a villain character. People want to put her in kind of a dark light, thinking she was so mean to Rue, she did these horrible things to Rue. But then you get to see why she made these actions, why she's so afraid to commit to the relationship, why she's so afraid to let her in and just be happy. And it's just so intense, and it's so wildly personal, it feels, in a way. When you're watching it, Hunter Schafer has some scenes where she's talking particularly about what it's like to be trans, and I felt like in the first season you never really dove into that. You know that she is, you don't really, it's not really an important part of the show, but in this special episode you understand what it means to her. And as someone who's not trans, I felt like it was almost educational. I felt like it was something that I could really understand, and just, I don't know, it was so powerful watching those scenes where she's diving into what it means to her. And just both Jules and Rue are characters with shields built up around them. They've gone through some intense trauma, and you really see that in this episode from Jules, what she went through with her mother in her early life, and maybe why she has this hesitancy to let Rue in and trust Rue and feel like she's going to be there for her. She's been burned so many times in the past, and she feels like she's almost built this structure around her where she needs to have that letdown. She talks about being attracted to people she feels are going to let her down, and she worries about her own relationships and her own mindset. And I really do like how you're able to dive into these aspects of the character, because on a surface level, you know that she has some problems that she's dealing with, and she's really has some traumatic events that drive her forward in her life. But you really get to see what those are in this episode, and you really get to understand more of the dynamic between her and Rue. Like I said, Hunter Schafer, absolutely phenomenal in this episode, and a lot of that has to do with being able to portray a character that has those cracks in their armor, has those moments of absolute emotional trauma break through from this stone facade that tries to pretend like they don't care about anything, that they can't be affected by anything. But then you see those things crack through. You see the breaks in her face. You see the emotional furrowing of her brow, everything that she does to show that she's trying to hold back, the wavering of where she's trying not to cry and break down. But at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. I also thought that the last scene of the episode really brings together everything that we've seen so far. When you're finally having Rue and Jules come together, everything that they went through, you've seen their experiences, their own little sessions that they had, Jules with their therapist, Rue in the diner. You understand where they're both coming from. You now know the whole picture. You know everything that happened, everything that led them to where they are, and just that intense clashing of these two figures together was so powerful, in my opinion. They're both trying not to hurt each other. They're two characters that care about each other so much that they don't want to hurt each other because of their own issues, and they don't want to be hurt because of the things they've dealt with in the past. It's such a powerful dynamic between these two characters, and I think that's something that's going to drive this series forward into season 2. It's something that everyone, I think, really loved about season 1. Them together, they just feel so much. They're so heartfelt, they're so powerful, but they're so damaged at the same time. And them trying to come together and accept who they are to each other, even though they both love each other so much, it's so interesting seeing them together and knowing the backstory and just the two phenomenal performances. It's just great. It's a great combination, and I cannot wait for season 2. There's also a lot of really powerful symbolism in this episode. Like I said, it's filmed during COVID, so it can't be shot in a way that has too much production to it. You have to do it a lot in small little segments. You have some symbolism of what the ocean means to Jules, this wide open expanse, this limitless possibilities, not having to worry about anything. Anything can happen. You can go anywhere. And there's scenes of her on the beach that are very symbolic of her trying to have freedom in her life. You also see some of the events and flashbacks that dealt with Jules's past. There's the beginning scene is really well done, in my opinion, where it's just a close-up of her eye, and you're seeing the reflections of her memory, her past, building her trauma, building while she's talking to her psychiatrist. It's a great symbolism of someone diving through their history, talking and trying to express why they are the way they are. You also get the idea of what sexuality means to Jules with a lot of symbolisms of her past relationships and the darkening of people leaving her behind, people just throwing her away because they didn't love her for who she was. She was just a means to an end. And that comes full circle with her mother and what happened with her battles with addiction. And she fears so much of not being there for Rue, but also being hurt by Rue. It's just such an interesting dynamic, and having these whole characters fleshed out in a way that's just basically an hour of them talking about their lives, I think will really drive the second season. And I can't wait. I just can't express how much I can't wait. So if you checked out the special episode of Euphoria, let me know what you think about it. I'm interested to see what people think that watched the first season watching these special episodes, because they are mostly just long segments of dialogue, and you have to really be committed to these characters and to the story of who they are to, I think, get the most out of them. I personally thought they were phenomenal. I think they really are a good piece of this whole franchise. I think it's going to help flesh out characters in ways they never could in the normal episodes. So I'm interested to see what people think about it. So those are my thoughts on the special episode. So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.